we play to keep me happy all the day. And sometimes for an hour or so I would watch my little soldiers go with different uniforms and drills between the bedrooms through the hills. I sometimes took my toys and streets all up and down among the sheets, put my trees and my houses out, and planted cities all about. For I was the giant, great and still, who would sit upon his pillow hill and see before him the daylight rain, the pleasant land of counterpane. And I lay in bed, I had 2 pillows at my head, and all my toys beside me lay to keep me happy all the day. And sometimes for an hour or so I would watch my little soldiers go with different uniforms and drills between the bedposts through the hills.
Hello everyone, thanks for watching. We hope you're safe and well wherever you are. We hope you enjoy this quick romp through the life of one of Scotland's favourite sons. That first song was Land of Counterpane, the best loved poem in his 1885 collection, A Child's Garden of Verses. What follows is inspired by my lifelong interest in this fascinating man, great writer and great humanist. My interest was first sparked by my father, who was born in 1909 when RLS fame was at its height, who read to me from books like this one, Treasure Island, whose inscription reads, "Presented to William Scott Adam by St Matthew's War Savings Association in recognition of his regular purchase of war saving certificates since the association was formed in December 1916. So this was my dad's contribution to the First World War effort.
And he went on to make a great contribution to the Second World War effort. An impressive man, but that's another story. RLS, as we like to call him, was bedridden as a child. He was an only child and kept at home most of the time by his doting parents. He hardly went to school at all, but he was looked after by his beloved nurse, Alison Cunningham, known in the family as Cummy, who read to him many religious stories. She was a strict Calvinist and disapproved heartily of his playing with his toy theatre, which she perhaps thought of as the work of the devil. He adored her and he dedicated the Child's Garden of Verses to her. And when we were lucky enough to visit the former home of the Stevenson family at 18 Heriot Row, which is occupied now by Stevenson fans, the McPhee family, the ghost of Cummy was definitely all around us. We were lucky enough to perform these songs in the drawing room directly under the bedroom where he would have been imagining the escape described in this next song.
Now the lights from the parlour and the kitchen shone out through the blinds and the windows and bars, and high up above and moving around there were thousands and millions of stars. Now there never were such thousands of leaves on a tree, or of people in the church or the park, as the crowds of the stars that looked down on me and that glittered and winked in the dark. There was the dog, there was the plough, there was the hunter and all, the star of the sailor and the moth, and they shone in the sky till the pail by the wall grew half full of water Now they saw me at last, and they chased me with cries, and they soon had me packed off to bed. But the glory kept shining and bright in my eyes, and the stars kept going round in my head. There was the dog, there was the plough, there was the hunter and all, the star of the sailor and Mars, and they shone in the sky till the pail by the wall grew half full of water and stars. They shone in the sky till the pail by the wall grew half full of water and stars.
So the next thing I'm going to read is an extract from Louis writing to his dad. He was a sickly child and he had chest problems of all sorts, and his parents were always sending him away, following the Victorian model, to country resorts where he could breathe more easily. And so here he is writing from Torquay in 1866. Respected paternal relative, I write to make a request of the most moderate nature. Every year, I know, I have cost you an enormous, nay, elephantine sum of money for drugs and physicians' fees, and the most expensive time of the last 12 months was March. But this year, the biting oriental blasts, the howling tempests, and the general ailments of the human race have been successfully braved by yours truly. Does this not deserve some remuneration? I appeal to your charity, to your generosity. I appeal to your justice, to your accounts. I appeal, in fine, to your purse. My sense of generosity forbids the receipt of more, sir, and yet my sense of justice forbids the receipt of less than, shall we say, half a crown? Greetings from your most affectionate and needy son, Louis Stevenson.
Say not of me, say not of me that lately I declined the labours of my sires and fled the sea. The towers we planted and the lamps we lit, to stay at home with paper like some child. But rather say, in the afternoon of time, this strenuous family dusted from its hands the sands of granite, and beholding far the sounding coasts and pyramids and tall memorials catch the dying sun, smiled well content, and in its evening hours, around the fire, addressed this childish task.
Say not of me that lately I declined the labours of my sires and fled the sea, the towers we planted and the lamps we lit, to stay at home with paper like some child, but rather say, in the afternoon of time, this strenuous family dusted from its hands the sands of granite, and beholding far along the sounding coast its pyramids and tall memorials catch the dying sun, smiled well content, and in its evening hours around the fire addressed this childish task.
After failing at engineering, he acquired a law degree, and he never used it once in a courtroom. The pull of literature was just too great. While holidaying and exploring in France, as a young adult, Stevenson met Fanny van der Grift, an American woman 10 years his senior, married and with 2 children in tow. They fell dramatically in love, and Louis followed her to the USA, where the variety and opportunity enthralled him. Here he is, describing in his poem The Susquehanna and the Delaware, the excitement and risk associated with his arrival in the New World.
So he was ahead of the mail. He didn't even let her know he was coming. And that ship was called the Devonia. It was an emigrant ship headed for New York in wretchedly crowded conditions.
That's him there. No, it's not.
Hideous conditions on board, which were awful for everybody apart from the writer, of course, who managed to get 2 stories out of this, one called Across the Plains and the other called The Amateur Emigrant, which are really great reading today. And here he is describing his arrival in the New World in Across the Plains.
Emigrant ships had arrived at New York all weekend, and a great part of the passengers from these 5 ships was concentrated on the 5 o'clock ferry. A babel of bewildered men, women and children, crowded thick, heavy and rank with the atmosphere of dripping clothes and lowering spirits. Open carts full of bedding stood by the half hour in the rain. When at last word was passed to us, I picked up my bundles and I got underway, but then only to exchange discomfort for misery and danger. The landing at Jersey City was done in a stampede. A panic of selfishness presided over the disorder of the landing. People pushed, elbowed and ran. Their families followed as best they could. Children fell and were picked up to be rewarded by a blow. One child, who had lost her parents, screamed steadily, and I'm ashamed to say that I ran past her with the rest. At last, we were admitted to the railway cars, dejected, soaked to the skin and deeper. As they were, most people composed themselves somehow in their wet and frozen clothing to sleep. But I had twice seen the lights of Philadelphia, and twice I had been told to leave the train, and then twice being told to rejoin it, before I could follow their dejected example. When I awoke, it was already day. There was not a cloud. The sunshine was baking, and in the woody river valleys through which the train wound its way, the atmosphere preserved a sparkling freshness. I felt my spirits rise, like some poor man who has come into a fortune. When I asked the name of the river from the brakesman, and when I heard that it was called the Susquehanna, the beauty of that name seemed to match the beauty of that shining river and that flourishing valley.
He was enchanted by many names that he came across in the New World, and the Susquehanna was one which inspired a poem. It's called the Susquehanna and the Delaware. So he's seen two magnificent rivers. And the poem, which Neil has set to music, expresses both his excitement of being in the New World and his trepidation. How will Fanny receive him on the West Coast?
Where or how I do not know, and why I do not care. These travelling eyes and minds, they fly through open air, past floods and fields and hills, through the woods and the meadows fair, here beside the Susquehanna and along the Delaware. That I will dream no more these dreams of otherwhere, for I know that I have changed from what I was and where, and lately I have drunk too much the perfume of the air, here beside the Susquehanna and along the Delaware. You will bring me soon ashore without care, down the stream and through the woods to the land of brighter air, where I will wear a bolder front than the one that I now wear, here beside the Susquehanna and along the Delaware, here beside the Susquehanna and along the Delaware.
Both Fanny and Louis, as his family called him, Louis as we say, had wanderlust after some years living together in Britain and Europe, during which Louis was often close to death through one chest infection or another. They were looking for a place he could feel healthy, and with his intrepid, now widowed mother, Margaret, and Fanny's son Lloyd, they set out from San Francisco in 1887 for what they thought would be a 6-month sabbatical. 3 years later, they had travelled the entire Pacific. They'd stopped in at every inhabited island. They'd learnt so much. They'd made friends everywhere. They'd started to become enamoured of that area of the world. And here they are, arriving on the beach at Apia in Samoa.
The first person who saw them there was a missionary from the London Missionary Society, and his name was William Clark. And here is what he had to say about his first meeting with the family. Fanny was wearing some kind of print gown, large gold crescent earrings, a Gilbert Island hat of plaited straw, encircled with a wreath of small shells. She had a scarlet silk scarf around her neck and a brilliant plaid shawl across her shoulders. Her bare feet were clad in canvas shoes, and across her back was slung a guitar. The younger of her two companions was dressed in some striped pyjama suit, a slouched straw hat of native make, dark blue sun spectacles, and over his shoulders he had a banjo. The other man was dressed in a shabby suit of white flannel that had definitely seen better days. He had a white drill yachting cap with a prominent peak, a cigarette in his mouth, and he carried a photographic camera in his hand. I simply thought they were all poverty-struck musicians en route for New Zealand.
So Louis found that he could breathe much better close to the equator, and of course his health was the paramount reason that they were travelling and looking for somewhere to settle. And they decided on Samoa, where they very much enjoyed the population and the spirit of independence they hadn't seen everywhere else. Not long after they arrived, they bought 40 acres of pristine land which had 3 waterfalls on it, and they very soon started to clear that land and plan a massive, magnificent house. Of course, a lot of the work fell to Fanny. Louis was often off travelling to different islands, including Australia, looking for materials for the house. And she got very tired of living in a tent. And he wrote this very, very sweet little song, which was meant to remind her that you should look up, look at the beauties of nature around you, and remember that life is short and that living in a tent won't be for always.
Now I will bring you brooches and toys for your delight, a bird song in the morning and the stars shine at night. And I will build a palace, it'll be fit for you and me, of green days in the forest and of blue days at sea. I will build a kitchen, and you must make your room, where white flows the river, and where bonny blows the broom. And we will wash our linen, and we'll keep our bodies clean, in rainfall at morning, and in dew fall at eve. This will be the music when no one else is near. Such a fine song for the singing, and such a rare song to hear, that only I remember, and that only you admire, of the broad road that stretches, and the roadside fire. I will bring you brooches and toys for your delight, a bird song in the morning and the stars shine at night. And I will build a palace, it'll be fit for you and me, of green days in the forest and of blue days at sea.
While wandering at Vailima on our first visit, I came across the Vailima prayers, published by the museum which now occupies his former home. These prayers were written by Louis to be shared with the community and the family at Vailima after a hard day's work. Their timeless and generous messages resonated, and I began setting them to music with the vague idea of a recording sometime in the future. When COVID forced us all to self-isolate, Judy and I decided now was the time. Cometh the moment and all that. With a great group of musicians, we're now well into this project. It's called The Windmill Needs the Wind, which has awe-inspiring support from Stevenson fans all around the world. Some of you watching may already be aware of our project. Others can find out more by visiting our website, neiladamandjudyturner.com. So now, filmed in the bush surrounding Villa Vailima on Judy's mobile phone, here is Lord Teach Us.
Rain falls on the many miles of forest
and the trees drink at their ease. So few handfuls of people, yet so many myriad races of trees. Lord, teach us the lesson of the trees. Lord, teach us the lesson of the trees. The ocean falls and rises all around us, and it teems with more than we could wish. On the coast, handfuls of people, yet in the sea, so many races of fish. Lord, teach us the lesson of the fish. Lord, teach us the lesson of the fish. As at night we see one star shooting across the firmament of many million stars, so we are just one clan here amongst many. Let us see ourselves for what we are. Lord, teach us the lesson of the stars. Lord, teach us the lesson of the stars. Now when we would despair, let us remember that others serve and live both near and far, and we are just one clan here amongst many. Let us see ourselves for what we are. Lord, teach us. Lord, teach us. Rain falls on the many miles of forest, and the trees drink at their ease. So few handfuls of people, yet so many myriad races of trees.
It was a very sociable group that gathered together at Villa Vailima, obviously Stevenson and his family, but also the community that they built around them. And they all loved entertaining, telling stories, eating food. They welcomed almost all the expatriate visitors, including the Australian Navy Band, every single one of them with their instruments on one occasion. I would love to think of that concert. And on one very memorable occasion, they played host to the American Presidential Commissioner to Samoa, Henry Clay Ide, whose daughter Annie was given a very special birthday present by the great man.
I, Robert Louis Stevenson, advocate of the Scots Bar, author of The Master of Ballantrae and Treasure Island, failed civil engineer, sole owner and patentee of the palace and plantation known as Vailima on the island of Apollo, Samoa, a British subject. I'm going to start again.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hey, can I just say, you said Lewis, Robert Louis Stevenson.
Yes, it is Lewis.
Is it? Oh, okay.
Here we go, take 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I, Robert Louis Stevenson, advocate of the Scots Bar, author of The Master of Ballantrae and Treasure Island, failed civil engineer, sole owner and patentee of the palace and plantation known as Vailima in the island of Apollo, Samoa, a British subject being in sound mind and pretty well, I thank you, in body. In consideration that Miss Annie H. Ide of the county of Caledonia in the state of Vermont was born out of all reason upon Christmas Day, and is therefore out of all justice denied the consolation and profit of a proper birthday, and considering that I, the said Robert Louis Stevenson, have attained an age when, oh, we would rather never mention it, and that I have now actually no further use whatever for a birthday of any description, I do hereby transfer to the said Annie H. Ide all and whole of my rights and privileges in the 13th day of November, the day which was formerly known as my birthday, but now hereby and henceforth is to be known as the birthday of the said Annie H. Ide, to have, hold, exercise and enjoy the same in the customary manner, by the sporting of fine clothing, the eating of rich meats, and the receipt of gifts, compliments, and copies of verse, according to the manner of our ancestors. And in case the said Annie H. Ide should neglect any of the above conditions, I would hereby revoke the donation and transfer my rights in the said birthday to the President of the United States of America, depending on who that may be. In witness whereof, I have hereto set my hand and seal this 19th day of June in the year of grace 1892, Robert Louis Stevenson.
Now we see the ending of the day, and the work and service of these last hours is past. Through open windows, through open doors, the ocean breeze blows through the house at last. But elsewhere on this earth the sun is rising. There they begin their labors as we end them. And may those for whom the sun stands high at noon prosper, and may you defend them. As we awake with smiles and head to labor, may patience be renewed across our nation. And as the sunlight brightens up our world, let kindness fill our place of habitation. But elsewhere on this earth the sun is setting. As we begin our labors, so they end them. May those who lie where the moon stands in the sky prosper, and may you defend them. May those who lie where the moon stands in the sky prosper, and may you defend them. Prosper, and may you defend them. Prosper.
Well, everyone, thanks for coming.
We really hope you've enjoyed our little look at Robert Louis Stevenson's life, and we hope to see you at a real live show somewhere.
Thanks to the Melbourne Tartan Festival for having us.
And thanks too to all the supporters of the Windmill Needs the Wind project, including our very generous donors, the Victorian Scottish Cultural Heritage Fund, Bill and Diane Sides, and the Robert Louis Stevenson Club of Monterey.
We look forward to seeing you somewhere soon in the real or virtual world. And remember, as Stevenson famously said, life is not a matter of holding good cards, but of playing a poor hand well.
When it comes to my own turn to lay my weapons down, I shall do so with thankfulness and fatigue. And whatever be my destiny then, I shall be glad, I shall be glad to lie down with my fathers in honor. When it comes to my own turn to lay my weapons down, I shall do so with thankfulness and fatigue. And whatever be my destiny then, I shall be glad, I shall be glad to lie down with my fathers in honor.